The world, remember, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the moment that symbolized the collapse of the Eastern Bloc. But that's the only half the story. What if I told you that long before November 9th, 1989, the first cracks in the Iron Curtain had already formed? That single decision, it's made in Budapest, set off the chain reaction that would shake the foundation of communist rule across Eastern Europe. But first and foremost, hello all of you risk takers and truth seekers. Welcome to Life the Battlefield, where we expose fake gurus through human intelligence methods. Those who don't know me, my name is Bekes, and I hold a Guinness World Record for the longest live audio broadcast. As well, I spent 1,800 consecutive combat days, and my professional career included working in the military and diplomatic intelligence security services. As well, I'm the best-selling author and have passion for podcasting. And today I'm taking you inside the real story, a story of power, diplomacy, and betrayal. Because the collapse of the Eastern Bloc didn't start in Berlin 1989. It started in Hungary. And I was at that time when this started, was living in the so-called Yugoslavia. But let me start with a silent revolution in Hungary. In November 1988, Hungary political landscape shifted. A new prime minister, Miklos Nemeth, took power. Unknown guy, but he got a role of prime minister. And like his predecessors, he saw the unsustainability of communism, the economic crisis crippling Hungary, and most importantly, he saw a way out. So, what was his first moves? Well, cutting off funding for maintaining Hungary's militarized border with Austria, a relic of the Iron Curtain designed to prevent people from escaping to the West. It was a bold move because dismantling the border wasn't just a financial decision. It was an act of what? Defiance. So Hungary was making a statement to the Soviet Union and the world. We will not be prisoners anymore. Interesting statement. You know, you're doing something metaphorically and then you give the statement. But the question is, could Hungary make such a move without Soviet retaliation? As we know in the past, they crushed Hungary uprising. The question led to the high-stakes meeting in Moscow. And that meeting was with who? Gorbachev. And it's calculated risk. It's happening in March 1989. Prime Minister Nemeth sat across Mikhail Gorbachev, the most powerful man in Eastern Bloc. And guess what's the topic? Hungary's intention to reform, to open up and dismantle the Iron Curtain. This meeting was a gamble. For decades, the Soviet Union had crushed uprising with the force. Hungary knew this better than anyone. Because 1956, those who don't know, Hungarian uprising ended in bloodshed. But this time, Gorbachev did something unexpected. He didn't order tanks into Budapest. No, he did not. He didn't even threaten military intervention. Instead, he gave Nemeth a quiet, unsettling assurance. And that was, we will not interfere. This was the moment that changed everything. And I remember right now, it changed everything. For those people who live in the West, they don't understand this. They see the Berlin Wall collapsed and here we go, Eastern Bloc collapsed. It wasn't like this. Gorbachev was being seen as a leader of the Soviet Union who was more liberal, who's going to do the changes. And there was a lot of clashes in Eastern Bloc, including in Yugoslavia. In 80s, we had a lot of shortages of the food, inflation, the shortages of the petrol. You know, the list goes on. And I remember as a kid, I was used to be standing on the front of the shop from 6 a.m. to, 2 p.m. Then my father comes 2 p.m. to midnight, my mom from midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning. So in the morning, they can buy the kilo of the salt or liter of the oil. And then on TV, we were continuously seeing Gorbachev whining and dining with Ronald Reagan. He promoting the Pizza Hut and, list goes on. And we were like, wow, what's happening? At that stage, I was engaged to become the officer in People Yugoslav Army. So, for all of us on East and Eastern Bloc, including Yugoslavia, that was a moment we all remember. That moment changed everything. For the first time, a Soviet leader was allowing a communist state to dismantle its own chains. So it's a border between the Hungary and Austria, and Hungary seized the opportunity. So they started tearing down the Iron Curtain in May 1989. Hungarian officials cut through barbed wire, physically tearing down the section of the Austrian-Hungarian border. And that was a moment no one thought possible. For decades, this border represented fear, oppression, and Soviet control. And now it was disappearing. Now, the images of Hungarian border guards removing the Iron Curtain spread across Eastern Europe like a wildfire. However, the real shockwave was yet to come. And that was that pan-European picnic started the day the wall began to crumble. On August 19, 1989, a peaceful gathering near the Austrian border, the pan-European picnic. Picnic was not possible. You can't envisage those things, I remember in Yugoslavia, you can't just come to the border because the border was being secured by the military. They have a patrols, the dogs, the tanks, eavesdropping stations, everything. You can't just cross the border wherever you want, only where the road border is, so they can check on you. And now suddenly you have the communist country, Hungary, and the new prime minister with a silent approval of the Gorbachev, Mikhail Gorbachev, they cut down physical border. So you need to understand that that was the only exit from the Eastern Bloc to the Western Europe via Austria. So who was coming there? Mostly people from East Germany. And that's how the things start exploding. One man decision will cost many, many lives. Now, at first, it was meant to be a simple symbol of European unity, pan-European picnic. But then something incredible happened. As I mentioned before, over 600 East Germans, desperate for freedom, rushed through the temporarily open border. And Hungary, well, let's make this very simple. Hungary let them go. No bullets, no arrests, no crackdown, just a freedom. This was a direct challenge to communist order. It was defiance. East German leadership was furious. They demanded that Hungary shut its border, block refugees, stop the flood of people escaping to the west. They demanded, but Hungary refused. And then, on September 10, 1989, it took the final step, permanently opening its border with Austria. The floodgates were opened. Thousands of East Germans escaped through Hungary, bypassing the Berlin Wall entirely. So, the Berlin Wall and the entire border between East Germany and West Germany become redundant, obsolete, because people travel from East Germany to Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and come where the place it's open between Hungary and Austria. And East Germans, they couldn't hold the authority over the East Germans. They wanted to crush this, but they couldn't because people will travel. So suddenly you need to have the East Germany military to stop them on a border between Hungary and Poland and Czechoslovakia with East Germany. But that was not possible. That was not possible because they bypassed the Berlin Wall entirely and people already flooded in Hungary from East Germany. And guess what? The wall was watching. However, one main decision, as I say, it created domino effect. Yes, that was the end of Eastern Bloc. Hungary's decision set off a chain reaction. By October, tens of thousands of Eastern Germans were using Hungary as an escape route, as I mentioned before. They were going there. Back in East Germany, protests erupted. By November, the Berlin Wall itself, the ultimate symbol of communist rule, collapsed, as we all know, and you saw this on TV. The wall saw this as a miracle. But those who understood the truth, they knew it all started with Hungary. Not in East Germany and Eastern Berlin, And then within a year, the entire Eastern Bloc crumbled. And as I said this before, one made decision and domino effect will create the bloody aftermath, which explained, and I was part of this fight against communism, oppression in Yugoslavia, in my country, Croatia, which explained in my book, The Blood-Soaked Soil, as I 18 years old, because you can't have something freedom for free. Freedom is not for free. You need to fight for the freedom, and it's come with a price. And those are two countries experience bloodshed, Yugoslavia and Romania. And as I mentioned this before, not all revolutions ended peacefully. For those who don't remember, in Romania was a supreme leader, Nicolae Ceausescu. He fought to hold onto power. However, protests turned into violent uprising. And on Christmas Day, 1989, Ceausescu was executed by his own people. Meanwhile, in Yugoslavia, the power vacuum left by communism unleashed ethnic tensions, war, and unspeakable atrocities. And I was in that war for 5 years. The fall of the Eastern Bloc freed millions, but for some, it's also unleashed chaos. Freedom, as a history has shown us, comes at a cost. Freedom is not for free. Freedom has a tag price, has a cost. Hungary's role in the fall of the Eastern Bloc was not accident. It was deliberate, calculated move, a choice to stand against Soviet control, to risk political backlash, and to put human freedom above ideology. But as we know, history is complex. It's very complex. The collapse of communism brought liberation for some and instability for others. Years to follow brought a lot of suffering. And that's what we must remember. Revolutions don't just change governments. They reshape the world in ways no one can predict. No one can predict. So I'll leave you with this question. Was Gorbachev a visionary or betrayer? Did he pave the way for freedom or abandon his own people to chaos? History remembers events, but it's up to us to understand the consequences. Freedom has the price. Now I want to hear from you. Was Gorbachev a hero or a traitor? Let's discuss. And as I said before, because history is never just about the past. It's about the lessons. You, me, and everybody else, we carry forward. Thank you for watching Life the Battlefield. Feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment. And I want you to start checking history. I want you to start reading more about history. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you believe that Eastern Bloc collapsed in Hungary or in East Berlin 1989? Thank you for watching.